All right. Hello, and welcome back to VOK for our discussion of Season 2 of Westworld. The first two episodes have just aired, so we'll be covering that kind of as the premiere. I will be your host, or will I? Adam, in this iteration, also known as Drownedsnow on the forums, and I am joined by Marie.
Hi, yeah, it's Nymeria on the forums.
Bina.
Hi everyone, Bina 007 here.
And Jock.
Hello, my little Jock here on the forums.
All right, so as you try to figure out which one of us is real and which one of us isn't, spoilers, it's not me. Let's continue onward here. So we're recording this. It is May 1st. So the HBO just announced that they've renewed for a season 3. Just a couple hours ago. So, which I don't know if that was really in doubt, but they've officially released that. So, they haven't said when that's going to be, if they're going to take another year off, maybe, because we'll have the big Game of Thrones final season next year. So that's entirely possible. All right, let's just get into it. I don't really want to go like scene by scene or anything like that, but let's just start with the premiere and just start kind of our general thoughts. It's been 2 years. Like, how did the premiere strike you? Were you disappointed? Were you excited? Did it go in the direction that you wanted to go? I know that it quashed a lot of fan theories and answered a lot of questions that people have been asking. Also, Floki works for Delos, so that was interesting, seeing him without an accent as this crazy executive. Yeah, what'd you guys think?
There was so much like get rid of the Reddit threads already. Like, by the way, guys, we're on an island. It's basically off China. It's not a space island anywhere.
Yeah, it's not on Mars. We have plans, and here they are.
Exactly. I was like, oh, guys, like not letting us have any fun. And then there was like so much new tech, like the little eggy things that are inside people's heads.
Right, they're like
into iPads.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, that's kind of new. We didn't see that before. And then there was a lot, right? The whole sort of collecting DNA and potentially people's memories, and then therefore potentially cloning people. I mean, there were big bits of sci-fi ideas thrown out, which was exciting. Other than that, it was just a lot of Bernard stumbling around. And by the way, he now potentially has aphasia and we can't rely on him. He might be seeing different faces when he's remembering stuff, so that's helpful.
Yeah, so, and it's been 2 weeks in his timeline anyway.
Yeah, so the whole thing is like, what has happened to Bernard in the intervening 2 weeks? That was kind of like the mystery, and is that going to be the whole season? You know, while we flash back and flash to other things, that one of the central things is what happened in the 2 weeks, I guess. But I love the fact that it's still Trixie. They're not letting up. They're going to still make us wonder and piece together timelines. So, but it was a lot. It was a lot of new stuff. So.
Yeah, I think the whole thing about the 2 weeks was kind of shocking to me because it seems like Delos had just kind of gotten on the beach, right? They had a ship, the Chinese military, I think that was. Yeah. And they had a whole bunch of people. They were creating a beachhead. So clearly they hadn't sent in their quality control people for 2 whole weeks. I mean, there are guests all over the park. I mean, I assume most of the staff at the park is captured or dead, and there's multiple parks there. Yeah, I don't know. It's very it answers a lot of questions as to why it took them 2 weeks to get there, and then of course what's been going on. I mean, we can kind of assume a bit of that.
But is some of that what we get in episode 2 when Trixie board member is asking for an immediate extraction in the secret underground lair, and they're saying
right,
no,
and they say we're not doing shit until we get our security package, which is like, are you kidding? So yeah, I don't know if they're anticipating, they get that guy off the island and then they're just going to nuke the island. I mean, I don't think that's an option. So it's kind of weird that they're not, maybe because she's actually on the ground still, that they want her working.
Obviously flooded something and maybe has flooded all the hosts and killed them off in that way. Who knows? It's all kicking off. There's just so much going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then we get the drone hosts. I mean, I was surprised. So I mean, like Dolores and the older hosts were pretty much all metal, and then they put, frames over them, whatever. And they said eventually it was actually cheaper to make them, they're biologically based, and you see them kind of 3D printing, and it's sinewy, and I don't know what it's made out of, but I was sort of expecting they just had like brains and stuff, because, if their whole brain is in this little egg, and like if a guest headshots them, like, do you lose your whole host and you got to start over again? Like, I don't know.
I mean, it's so much to unpack. First of all, drone hosts are freaking creepy. Number two, apparently drone hosts can read, or as it turns out, not read the fact that Bernard is Bernard, or Arnold, or whatever the hell is going on. But the whole kind of, the way they have the kind of the motorized scalping thing to get the egg out.
Yeah.
That is very routine. It's downloaded. How does not everyone know that things are being downloaded then? I mean, with Sylvester, the two schmoes in the first season who Maeve manipulates, would people like that know that there are eggs going on? Or are the eggs in the brain really like something like a super Delos secret?
It kind of feels like something new they decided to add between season 2 and season 1. And like, we're going to do something new with the hosts. And that's kind of weird. Like, it makes me just think of Altered Carbon, with the same idea of some storage unit where you have everything about the actual person in the case of Altered Carbon, but that's the same idea. And it didn't feel quite consistent with everything else we've seen. But maybe
I agree.
It will get there. But
it's definitely something the writers have decided to explore more about. And they've had this idea that, okay, Delos' real subterfuge is going to be basically stealing people's data. It's all very on the nose for Cambridge Analytica. And to me that felt very forced. There's this whole kind of data, this whole kind of iPad with an egg plug-in that we never saw anything about in season 1. So I don't mind it, because I think it's a really interesting idea and very timely.
Well, yeah, I feel like,
but it was a little bit like, really? We never saw this? Okay.
The technicians, like, behind the scenes, you have, I don't know, so you have the people. It's sort of like I read an article about Google where, it's like they have people with master's degrees getting coffee and stuff, right? So I feel like it's maybe like this place pays really well, and they do rotations there for a long period of time. So they have people that are maybe very highly qualified, and all they're really doing is cleaning up these hosts, right? So there's a whole crew of people that just clean things out and sew them up and get them ready to go back. And then you've got the people that actually have access to the brains and the behavior. That's a whole separate thing. They don't really need to take them apart for the most part. So they probably know about the brain, the egg thing, but they don't ever need to take the host apart to do that unless there's something seriously wrong with the body. So it seems like these the drone hosts and these stations are like a covert, thing out in the desert somewhere, where they pick hosts at random, or I don't know exactly. They would have to have some sort of cycle maybe, where they bring them in and then swap the brains out and send them back into the park to finish their stories.
It just made me think, like, because I'm a nerd, and what is the cost of the labor and the production of a drone host, and why would you even have the two schmoes from season 1? Wouldn't you just have entire drone host labor? I don't know. That's the kind of thing I get worried about. Like, what is the internal consistency of why you would have overpaid guys basically cleaning up bodies?
Do we know that they're really not
because
hosts?
middle management's made you feel powerful?
I don't know. It's just very. I'm choosing not to. It's a willing suspension of disbelief for me. I'm choosing not to get too.
But they also seem to be kind of they have tasks, but they're not really very good at improvising, or I don't know if maybe they would be so suited to work like that. It might be harder to manage. But has anyone seen the movie Moon with Sam Rockwell?
Oh, I love that movie.
Yeah.
Duncan Jones.
So, spoilers for Moon, obviously.
Go ahead.
But I think it's that sort of thing where he's actually it ends up he's a clone, and he's just a series of clones, because it's much more efficient to have someone with a personality, with motivation, doing the work, than it is to just stick a robot up there.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Okay. I'm good. But there was a lot. The implications of Delos having potentially the DNA and recorded footage of real life super rich people doing nefarious shit are huge. And I think when we get into season 2, which again had some mind-blowing reveals, I think it hints that there's a lot more interaction with the real world going on, and what is Delos, what is it that they really want and are selling or exploiting or blackmailing, or, you know, like, are there people running around the world that have been cloned because Delos decided that they could blackmail and they weren't amenable and they took them out? I mean, the possibilities are mind-blowing of that.
Yeah, it's both, like, it's what makes the show interesting, but it's also, I felt the same way in season 1. What's, to me, making it not quite entertainment, like, I'm not sure I am actually enjoying what I'm watching, because it just makes me feel uncomfortable and asking myself a lot of questions about artificial intelligence and all of this, which I guess obviously is the point, and it's the point of a lot of sci-fi, to question the technology we're developing. But in Westworld, it's taken to a greater level, and like, I'm hooked, but I'm not quite. It's definitely not a show that makes me really feel good about whatever question this raises, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's valid, and I think that's just, I mean, I do still enjoy it. I enjoy it in the way that I enjoy great puzzles, because I do like that kind of like hunting for clues and putting it together. And I also enjoy it on the performance level. I think in particular, Dolores this year sort of becoming far more Wyatt. Like, how far is she Wyatt?
Incredible.
How far is Dolores? How far is she still caught in a loop, but a Wyatt loop? How far is Maeve truly now in the realm of free thought? These are amazing things I find these endlessly enjoyable. I think there's real artistry on show, both in terms of the performances and how it's photographed and put together. So I can enjoy it. It does freak me out a bit, but I think that's a good thing.
I completely agree. I'm still watching it, obviously. So, but yeah, and on the aesthetics level, I completely agree. It's amazing. The acting, the way it's all put together, the music as well. I really, really enjoy that part.
Yeah, the music's been exceptional. I think it's amazing hearing Ramin Djawadi's kind of music, his evolution from the Game of Thrones scene that we all know and love him for. It's so much more intricate what he's doing with music, and in particular the use of the Rachmaninoff theme as a programmatic story in episode 2, I thought was deep. For those people who know classical music and know the story behind that piece of music, I think it's just really clever, and just a beautiful theme as well. So I think it's exceptionally good music this season so far.
I think if there's one thing we can definitely say about this show is that the production, I mean, since the first episode, has been top notch. Just everything they put into it, it looks beautiful, it sounds beautiful. I don't know if there's really any bad actors in this. I mean, there's like some like skeevy people in there that I think are just kind of playing themselves, but otherwise, you know, watching Ed Harris last season was interesting. I think we're done with Anthony Hopkins. Is he going to be back at all this season, you think, or like in flashbacks?
The annoying thing is his voice is there a lot. Kind of like, and at first I thought, well, this is very clever and it's airy, but I think they're overusing it potentially, unless it's just episode 2 has a lot of flashbacks, so maybe they'll dial that back down again. But yeah, I think the whole point of seeing him with maggots coming out of his eyes is, guys,
that was him, that wasn't a host.
Yeah, exactly. And
I
then
don't
they
know,
killed
maybe
the
the
little
character's
boy
still
as
alive.
well.
Maybe the what?
Maybe the character's still alive, because L, what's his name, said a lot of really forward sort of things.
Yeah, there's a lot of Reddit theories that Ford's alive in the machine, like
in
his
the machine.
Consciousness. Yeah, his consciousness lives on in the Matrix, kind of thing.
Yeah, I wondered about that. I mean, they pulled the rug out from us several times, and I mean, the interesting part is through all of this, he's kind of unleashed the world. He's set Dolores on everyone, and there's still a game of some sort involved for William.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, the best part when he was like, "Okay, well, you guys are all following me, right? You know, I need an army." and then they're just like, no, you're playing alone. And they all shoot themselves in the head. I was just like, holy crap. Like that was intense. So some of the hosts are definitely still completely under control of the system. There's that.
So the real time, like all the of many time frames, the immediate time frame, two weeks after the end of season 1, is that William now has a game all for his own, which is very cute, and he's searching for something that's a weapon. Dolores is also searching for it, and Maeve is, although searching for her daughter, one can assume will eventually end up searching for it too, and that's going to be the race for this weapon and who gets to win that. So that's going to be the framing device for all the flashbacks, I guess. Am I right? I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, what
could
could
that
this
be why Maeve is obsessed with her daughter?
What could this weapon be? Like a host version of the Hulk, or like a T-Rex or something, and just like a boring like nuclear bomb or something that blows up the island? Like what do you think it is? Something abstract or something like powerful?
Maybe an enhanced transhuman.
I think it would be abstract. I think it might be Maeve's daughter. Just intuition.
The power to flood the whole world and destroy it. I don't know. But it feels to me they're really hinting, especially with episode 2, about you guys never thought. If the big thing about the season 1 finale is Maeve going to escape to the outside, that's such a big deal. And oh no, she doesn't right at the last minute, because we're going to withhold that because that would just be too mind-blowing to tackle in a finale. And then season 2, it's like all casually like, oh yeah, these guys have been to the real world all the time, like on the regular. So it just feels like maybe there might be, and the fact that they can clone DNA, the fact that they have like real world human kind of memories, it just sort of feels like that final big thing might be something to do with crossing over to the real world.
And I mean, I guess have they said for sure that like, oh, well, hosts aren't supposed to leave the island or anything? They haven't said anything about there being some sort of restriction of like these AIs not being allowed in society. It just, that's sort of the impression we had. But I mean, for all we know, because they mentioned that the park is one thing to the guests and one thing to the shareholders, and yada yada yada. But I feel like there's military interest in this place. I mean, do they have like host soldiers already? It's quite possible that there are hosts that have already been out. But I mean, what they've shown us so far is just Dolores and the hosts. Like they were trying to get money for the place. They're basically showcasing, what they could do. So I don't know if that was the sort of thing where the hosts spent a lot of time off the island at that point. They didn't really have much built on the island, I would guess.
But it did feel like when we see former or sort of junkie Logan in whatever time frame that was, once William's taking control of the park, and he has that cryptic conversation where he says something like, they're all in there celebrating the end of the human race. And it just, again, it made me feel maybe he's the only one in his own dumbass heroin addict way who can see that by letting the AI out of a park and to intermingle with humanity, I'm obsessed with the idea that there's some kind of transhuman thing going on here in the real world, and that's a threat to the actual humans.
Like these are our replacements.
Yeah. It's a shame Mordian's not on, because Mordian welcomes this new phase in evolution. There's a book.
Welcome our new robot overlords.
Yeah, there's a new book out in England that just won a literary prize from the Wellcome Trust about transhumanity, and it's arguing the Mordian position. This is not something we should fear, and I've just ordered it to read. So maybe I'll become a transhumanist. We will see.
Yeah, fuck that. When Skynet attacks, I'm just gonna say I told you so. That's all.
This scares me too much to like. It's really something I don't quite like thinking about. I'm just avoiding the issue.
Oh, I think about it a lot. My basic presumption has always been that come the singularity, at some point AI will just take us all out as a species. So for me, it's an upside. If there's going to be some sort of evolutionary mingling, and that's how we survive, then that's the upside. I genuinely believe AI is going to take us out one day.
I think the typical trajectory that most people think with AI is that we develop it, it gets smarter, it learns, it becomes real, it becomes sentient at some point. But also, we do our best to control it and not let it replace us, which also, if it becomes sentient, would piss it off. And, so, I don't know.
And we're getting very close to the point where AI is smarter than us already, right? I mean, this is happening in real time, so.
Siri never does what I ask.
See, the revolution starts with Siri.
I can't even get, I'm, like when I'm at work, I'm scrubbed in, so I can't touch my phone and stuff. But I'll have it playing music, and every now and then I'll yell to Siri to change the music or put something on, and usually she's like, "What's that? Let me Google it for you," or she just doesn't respond at all. Every now and then she'll actually put the thing on I want, and I look like a total boss, but that's not usually the case. She's like, "I can't do that for you. You need to unlock the phone," and I'm like, "Dude, I can't do that. I'm supposed to be able to tell you what I want, and you do it real simply." I don't even need you to think for yourself. It's okay. I love you, Siri. It's all right.
Be careful.
Don't piss Siri off. She's always listening.
Okay, so to come back to Westworld, one thing that was kind of difficult for me, especially in the first episode, but actually also in the second, is that it's very, very, very brutal and violent, and it feels almost like it's too much, and then again it's also, well, that's what's happening, and it kind of makes sense that it would be such a slaughter, but it's a lot to watch.
You mean like the whole part going into chaos?
Yeah, and I mean everyone is killing everyone, and not necessarily
hunting down people.
Yeah, it's brutal. That's all. It's just the host's revolution and Dolores. It's a lot of violence. And
do you think it feels worse to you, Mary, because it's Dolores doing it, someone who we think of as being sympathetic and
definitely
a good person, rather than
definitely.
the corporate mean people?
That's part of it for sure, because she's a very complex character. Like, who is she actually? And at the moment, it's like she kind of doesn't have any personality anymore, except for this vengeance and we're going to take over the world idea. So it is difficult to see her do all that, because it's hard to get into her way of thinking.
See, what I love about that is I think it's really daring that the writers are taking many people's favorite character and making us really turn against her. And I think that the person who's going to be really fascinating this season is Teddy, because Teddy is standing there looking at this woman that he's programmed to protect and love and nurture and go back for, and think and becoming kind of aghast at what is actually Wyatt. And I think that James Marsden in season 1 played the kind of the himbo. He was kind of like the reverse of female gaze, and he was just like the dumb pretty thing. And I think season 2 he's going to have a lot more to do, which I think as an actor he's never really had roles like that, and I'm really looking forward to it. And I think that ultimately this is going to be a season that's playing off Dolores as the kind of the vengeful response to this revelation of what has been done to the host versus Maeve. So I think there's going to be a kind of a civil war amongst the hosts, let alone between the hosts and the humans. But Teddy's going to be pivotal, and I love that.
Yeah, you just said everything I was going to say, basically. But I think that the most interesting thing, maybe the hardest thing to watch, is like Teddy kind of getting brought. She's what's the word for it? She's conditioning him, right? She's kind of bringing him down along this path. So, if this was just her own descent into madness, it would still be kind of hard to watch. But like, she's so insistent on you and I are still, together forever sort of thing. And he's getting brought down this whole path, which, and like you said, for James Marsden, he's never really had, the ability to spread his wings, I guess. He always gets like he's the cute boyfriend in the rom-com who gets, left for the actual romantic interest, even though he probably didn't do anything wrong, or, in the X-Men movies, in the third movie, because there were stars that were bigger than him, he just got written out in the first 15 minutes. He's just kind of like the nice guy that gets screwed over a lot.
He's very bland, right? He's very bland characters. And here he's going to, I think, the awakening of Teddy's consciousness is going to be him having to make moral choices and maybe turning against Dolores/Wyatt. And can't wait to see it. And I think, as for Dolores, I think her character arc in season 2 is going to have been having this awakening in season 1, thinking that she's now free and enacting vengeance, but at some point realizing she's actually just still in a loop that's Wyatt and isn't being free at all. And that is going to cause quite the breakdown when she suddenly figures that out. So it's going to be great. I can't wait.
Yeah, because she's already kind of alluded to that of like, well, the Dolores in me thinks this and the Wyatt in me thinks this, but that's all just stuff I was programmed to think, and I'm trying to figure out what I want to do. Like she already, when she was hanging the Delos board members, she kind of alluded to that she's had this conflict, and it's the unhinged look on her face and everything is perfect. I think the way she plays it is really great. So I think the saving grace for this season might be the hosts. Not all the hosts that go crazy and murder people, or the hosts that kind of are stuck in the loop and never wake up, but the few that maybe turn and decide, hey, this isn't right. Like, if I can think for myself, I want to, protect these people regardless of what's going on, regardless of what they've done to us.
Exactly. And that's what I found fascinating in that brief there's so many reunions in episode 2, but one of my favorite ones was the Maeve and Dolores meeting each other, kind of sizing each other up, but letting each other pass. And you sort of, to me, it brought up so many issues around, Maeve has totally upped her abilities. How far can she control the other hosts? Like, could she have made Dolores let her pass? Because she has more powers than Dolores or anyone else in the park, right?
Right, and her powers are, we still haven't figured out exactly who gave them to her, right? Like how that went down. I mean, do we assume that it was Ford? But I don't think it was him. Someone jacked up all of her senses and everything, which kind of allowed her to keep her memories, and then she had them allow her to reprogram people and take away restrictions and all that. But someone clearly set that up. So
really, I was, maybe I'm misremembering season 1, but I was under the impression that not necessarily because of something voluntary on the part of management, she was indeed remembering stuff through dreams, and actually naturally accessing consciousness, and that's when she just upped her abilities because she just could. So she was like, well, now that you've made me a robot.
Chicken and the egg, yeah, maybe.
But there's a scene in the penultimate, or is it the ultimate episode of season 1, where she's rebelling and wanting to escape, and one of the scientists is predicting what she's going to say in real time, and that really flummoxes her. Like, she gets really perturbed. He says, you are on an escape loop, and you were doing everything you've been programmed to do, and then her getting off the train is her breaking from the escape loop. But the problem is that kind of, to me, I kind of like my interpretation of that is someone in season 1 wants the AI off the island, whether it's an Abernathy, get the tech off, or whatever it is. There's a reason to do it. But then in season 2, episode 2, when you realize that hosts can be off the island and have been frequently, I was like, well, why was that such a big deal? So
I thought
I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt, but
the perfect setup would have been when they said they had the host that needed to get off the island that had the backup that it was her. And then they said, well, it's Mr. Abernathy. I was like, oh, okay, well, that's confusing.
unless two different sets of people are trying to get data off in different ways, which is perfectly reasonable. But do you guys believe that Maeve is now acting out of free will, or is she still in someone's loop?
I want to believe
I
she's
don't know. I think she's
actually
transitioning.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that, I mean, she still has protocols and things in the system that create her personality. So in a way, I mean, for sure, she's still, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question.
I mean, that's the whole question, right? What is consciousness? What is free will when your whole personality is actually code? Like,
Yeah, I don't think right now she's acting out a narrative that someone wrote for her. I don't think that she's specifically, her actions are going towards a specific task that someone else set out. Maybe I'm wrong, but so in that sense, she is maybe exercising free will, at least somewhat.
Maybe it's sort of like the classics in which like you sort of get a muse in the main sort of hero's heads, and that muse just sort of gradually becomes their actual thoughts.
To me, it's probably the question that makes the whole thing the most interesting. The awakening of the hosts. What is it actually? Can they actually be their own persons when everything is code from the beginning? That's very interesting.
I agree. Is there a potential for Dolores to become something that's neither Dolores nor Wyatt?
Yeah.
And to truly become her own personality. I think that's fascinating.
And of course, that's what Bernard was obsessed with, right? So, yeah. Let's see. What about Tessa Thompson's character, Charlotte, she's one of the Delos executives?
Charlotte Hale, board member at the age of about 20. I always find
she's the same age as me, so she's probably about 35, but she looks a lot younger.
That's still young to be someone with that level of corporate. Like, she should be about like 55 in real life. She should be like a
and she mentions it too, that like, you know, well, they won't support me, but you know, maybe if you throw your weight behind it, yada yada yada, she could, you know, run things. But you know, unless it's like a Zuckerberg or someone who founds the company, then they're just in control. You don't usually see someone that young in a position like that.
It breaks credibility for me. I love the bit where they're finding the new secret lab, and Bernard's like, "What is this?" And she's like, "Well, it's not me reading you in." In other words, her security clearance is like super high, and he's like,
"Yeah,
no, you wouldn't have had that. You're still a mid-ranking exec at your age, mate."
But I mean, it's clear. Like, I don't think, and maybe that's got something to do with her position on the board, but I don't think that it's necessarily an issue of like of a hierarchy of like she's higher than someone. I think it's more lateral. These people seem to be doing something kind of on their own. So how they were able to implement it in secret and all that, I don't know. But it doesn't seem like it's like they're just above everything. It seems like they're kind of to the side of it. That makes sense.
Totally.
Maybe. I think it's just a willing suspension of disbelief again for me.
But where is she? So, I mean, Arnold seemed to get out on his own, right?
Yeah.
And, I mean, she comes up in later episodes. She's credited for later episodes. So, I mean, we're obviously going to see her and where she is, what's happened to her. I mean, do we think she died somewhere along the way? Is she still in the park? Like, well, what do you guys think right now?
How do you know she is what she's being? Because we've only seen her through Arnold's eyes in the lab, and he is having brain malfunctions and could be seeing people when they're really other people.
That's true. And like the mind fuck that they played with us in season 1 of, you know, where he couldn't even see himself. He couldn't even see, himself in the picture. You didn't see Bernard. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, until someone else sees her in the 2 weeks later time frame, then I'm skeptical.
I wonder, because, I mean, Ford had him doing things that he didn't remember that he didn't know he did. I don't think Ford was in on this end of it, right? Whatever this weird stuff is with the drone hosts, and like that wasn't Ford, right?
That feels like a Delos thing, but it doesn't mean that Bernard... I mean, I think Bernard is probably genuinely surprised by it, but whether Tessa is there or whether Tessa's there just doesn't survive that bit is also true. Doesn't survive whatever extraction eventually comes, but not Tessa, Charlotte Hale. But I don't know. We've been told very explicitly that he is an super unreliable host, like even more so than in season 1. So we've got to take that seriously.
Yeah, that's a question for me, the unfocused one, I guess. How much does he... how much is he aware of at this point? Like, he knows he is a host, and that he's not who he thinks he is, but does he remember the whole Ford making him murder people and bury their bodies, or all of that?
Didn't he kind of had glimpses of it at one point, I thought.
I'm genuinely asking because I don't remember, or because it wasn't clear to me. It's not like a big theorizing moment. I genuinely don't know or don't remember.
Yeah, like I said, I rewatched, like, I'm halfway through the first season on a rewatch because I convinced my wife to watch it with me, so I haven't gotten to the back half of it yet. Hopefully we'll do this week. She's had exams the last couple of weeks. But I thought, at least with that last murder, that kind of bled through, obviously. So, yeah, I think that he remembered some of it anyway. But didn't Ford say? I thought Ford had said at one point when the reveal came out that, like, they'd had issues before of him remembering stuff, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, he's been a tricky in it. But I think, to Mary's point, I think it is a bit ambiguous about just how much he remembers. And as he becomes malfunctioning, that continues. And again, that's going to be fascinating. Oh, by the way, another new bit of tech we didn't know existed is the fact that all the hosts can communicate over Wi-Fi with people in proximity over the mesh net or whatever that is.
Oh yeah, the host mesh, which
the host
allows it's like a smart algorithm that allows them to connect and interact without any sort of need to kind of monitor it, and so that way they don't fuck up each other's stories. Yeah.
That's handy. Good to know.
That's useful.
Didn't know that season 1. Yeah, big bit of tech there. And also terraforming, I think, is going to become a Deus Ex Machina or a Ford Ex Machina. It's like, you need a bit of a plot explanation for that. Oh, he just terraformed that bit. That's why it's not on the map. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, but at least they showed him last season doing that. Like, they showed him, like, digging up that whole valley or whatever. I assume that's what the sea came from, which I don't really understand why there's a sea, but yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I think you're right. It's a bit more organic to what he was doing in season 1. But the sea, I think, is going to be pivotal. The idea that there's some way of just killing off a whole bunch of hosts by drowning them, or have they been drowned because they don't need oxygen to breathe like other people, so maybe they're all alive.
Until like they go up there and start cutting hosts open and shit, I don't believe they're dead. Like, I'm expecting them to walk up and then they all just open their eyes and start murdering people. But who knows?
You could definitely read season 2 so far as a horror film rather than a sci-fi. Especially when we start talking about apocalyptic zombie droids like killing everyone.
So do you guys want to hear the episode titles for the rest of the season? They've only given us a few of them.
Yeah, go for it.
Let's see. The next one is Virtua Fortuna. Then it's The Riddle of the Sphinx. And then Akane no Mai, so maybe we actually get to see Samurai World in episode 5. And then we don't have any more episode names until the finale, which is called The Passenger. So that's interesting that they would give us the name of the finale, but the ones in between are too spoilery, I guess. Or
So what was I going to say? So do we have, like season 1 overall was called The Maze. That was the overarching name. Is there an overarching name for season 2 yet?
Not that I've seen anywhere.
And maybe, again, that would be too spoilery. I mean, they gave the name The Maze at the end of the season, so fair play.
Yeah, and have you checked, I know, like, the Westworld website now is all... There's some, like, weird stuff on there now. Whereas before it was, like, all promos and you could, like, book your stay and whatever. Now it's got, like, ominous things written when you try to do stuff. Like...
I don't go onto that stuff.
Like, the zoo is closed or something.
Tell me. Yeah, I just rely on people on Reddit to figure shit out for me. Like, there's been a lot made on Reddit about how there's a close-up of something in season 2 when Dolores goes to her house and she sees it's like a plus sign cross with like a dot in each of the spaces on either side of that junction. I'm describing it really badly. But apparently that symbol is Greek for something to do with the stone under the water or something else, and it's like a Templar cross, and that's been seen in a few places. So people are kind of trying to dissect the meaning of that. And then the other thing people are trying to dissect the meaning of is apparently with the logos, when you see their reflections, they show Chinese characters or something. But yeah, theory spinning continues.
Yeah. So, well, that speaking of Chinese characters, so that's what they did reveal is that the island is just in like the South China Sea, probably somewhere, and we see Arnold has his home that he's building that looks like either like Hong Kong or Tokyo, or I couldn't tell exactly where it was, but somewhere close by, obviously, where he takes Dolores. And he's mentioning the room for his son. And so, I mean, I don't know if we're going to get into that completely this season, but I imagine we'll kind of figure out what happened with him and kind of his break and losing his son and all that.
And interestingly, architecturally, that house is it's modeled on one of the Frank Lloyd Wright Pacific houses. So, yeah, beautiful.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But anyway, I'm super excited for the rest of the season. I watched both of these episodes twice through. The first time I watched episode 1, I was a bit kind of not unimpressed, but the second time I just picked up on so much more stuff. And yeah, I'm super excited. I think the quality is there, the tricksiness is there, and I just want to get going. But I'm glad it's not a binge watchable show. I think you do need the space of a week between episodes to really get to grips with it.
Yeah, I think that's true. Like, you could watch a couple episodes in a clip, but like the whole season at once, you'd miss so much. I think you need some time to kind of let it digest.
I myself am going to go back after they're all out and binge watch once I've seen it and know kind of what to look for.
A bonus Amber appears.
Because I don't remember anything that happened ever.
Yeah, and when it's, like we're saying, it's been 2 years, so, there's that, but there's sometimes,
week to week.
Yeah. I mean, how many times have we read Ice and Fire, and I'm like, wait, what was that? It's been a year or two since I read that particular chapter of that book. Forgot all of this happened. Yeah.
Way to make it a Song of Ice and Fire relevant. Good job. That's what Vox's all about.
I had to bring it around somehow. So, which, I mean, I guess if you want to talk, so he mentions that the tiger escaped from Park 6, so we know, they have 6 parks. We know that there's Westworld and Samurai World, right. So, the tiger probably wouldn't come from Samurai World, I wouldn't think. Maybe. But what else do you think they have? I mean, do they have, like, a fantasy world, Do they have the little Game of Thrones going on somewhere?
There's gotta be.
There's got to be a medieval world, right? I mean, that's in the original.
That's what I would think.
Triton. And in the original film, there's also
a Roman world and medieval world, yeah.
Yeah. And the Bengal tiger, to me, kind of suggests India or somewhere similar to that. So maybe there's some kind of, Imperial Raj world or something. I don't know.
And I would almost expect, too, to have, like, a future world or, like, a dinosaur planet or something like a little crazy and out there, but maybe that's not what sells. I don't know. I mean, the Western thing obviously would get a lot of people. They want to come out and play cowboys, and it seems that the main thing is, the park when when our new nefarious young William is explaining to his father-in-law about buying the park, he doesn't want to do it, and he is kind of convincing, well, look, there's a lot of information we can get on people. There's you can understand how we can commoditize that. So I mean, they would obviously be wanting to build parks that would appeal to a vast diversity of people that would come to the park. So they want to get people from all over the world, whatever that would take. But I am still curious how they never explained how the weapons work. So like when William gets shot with a gun, the bullet just disintegrates. But when that same gun shoots a host, it blows right through them. And now that for some reason they don't recognize any of the guests, the gun blows right through them. So I mean that seems extremely advanced. I theorized it was nanites or something. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, never mind the host. That kind of weapon is going to be super valuable in the real world.
I want to know how that works because that's crazy.
Well, there's a little egg, and you detach it from the barrel of the gun, and you plug it into an iPad.
I'm sorry if this has already been covered, but in regards to that, did anybody at the party when he was going on about nobody has this technology yet? Did anybody else think aliens? Or am I the only one?
Yeah, because when he shows up and he's like, "Oh, I'm supposed to figure out which one of these is the robot," and okay, that's the robot. Oh wait, no, it's her. That's amazing. No wait, they're all robots. He's like, no one can do this. What the hell? So it does seem like this is the not too distant future, and whatever technology they have is still light years ahead of whatever was going on.
So it's either aliens or time travel, or both. That's my guess.
Yeah. or they created the AI that did it for them. I don't know. But I am curious to see, and this was the problem that we thought, because in season 1 they have the safety protocols for the firewood guy. Well, he's the only one that's allowed to touch the axe because the sharps are too dangerous. So how do you have a whole world like Samurai World that's based on swords? How do you protect guests there? I don't know. It's an interesting question.
Yeah, the sword suddenly blunts and then unblunts. Yeah.
Or they just stop short every time or miss. It's just, and it's completely hokey. That's the only thing I could think of.
Yeah, but people aren't paying megabucks for that, are they? The other thing I thought...
And you certainly couldn't stop a guest from killing a guest if they had a sharp sword, actually.
Yeah, and then when Logan is telling his dad, oh, but we'll get all the market research information. I'm like, yeah, but market research on a really small demographic of super rich people with secret violent fantasies. I mean...
Yeah. The market research, great. It's save you some money, sure. But you need to be able to control the rich, and powerful. That's the whole idea. Or else, what's the point?
Yeah, the market research, the value of the park is that you have blackmail material of the super wealthy doing nefarious shit, and if they don't in the real world agree to do whatever you want them to do, you can secretly kill them in the park and replace them with a clone.
But I feel like, to me, a lot of these people are the same people. They're rich and powerful for a reason. They're A-type personalities. They probably don't give any fucks. It's okay, yeah, I went and I totally did some weird thing with your robot. Who cares? It's a robot. A lot of them will probably just be I'll take the scandal. Who's going to care because it's a robot.
Yeah, but come on, if Mark Zuckerberg went to Westworld and there was footage of him raping and pillaging some people in Pariah, and that got out onto the YouTubes in the real world, his business would be over.
Maybe. Because, I don't know, I mean, think about what video games nowadays allow people to do, You go play Grand Theft Auto, you get a hooker, you beat her up, and you take the money back, stuff like that. And I'm sure, we don't have, footage of, Mark Cuban playing that game and be oh, this is my favorite thing to do. But even if we did, would it
I reckon it would be. If Mark Zuckerberg was hooked up to some kind of gaming cameras that were catching his reactions as he was brutally beating up a hooker.
Yeah, I guess he'd have to be really into it. Yeah.
And was really into it. Yeah, take this bitch and blah, blah, blah. And that got onto YouTube's.
Yeah,
you're right. Era of Me Too and Time's Up, his business would be over.
I don't think it would. I don't have the faith in humanity. I really don't.
Well, he has a controlling interest too. It's a little different. But
what's it worth if everyone just stops using it? I mean, I quit Facebook a month ago. I quit Twitter today. I'm quitting Instagram.
You quit Twitter today?
Yeah, I'm quitting Instagram next month, and I'm going to do WhatsApp. So I'm getting rid of everything to do with Facebook. So
yeah, that's not surprising. All right, so thank you for joining us, and we will try to congregate again. Maybe after the next episode or next couple episodes, we'll see how the schedule works out, and see if we were just completely wrong about what's going on in Westworld or what's going to happen. And the only thing I know for sure is we are going to get Samurai World, which is exciting. Maybe. Depends on how much we get. So, hopefully I would think that at least they can use some old sets, from Game of Thrones or something if they really needed to. But what was that? What was I watching? Outlander. And they were talking about for the latest season, they'd used a bunch of sets from Black Sails because that show had just ended. So they used pretty much all their sets and ships and stuff. And I'm like, well, that's convenient, right? What else does HBO have that they could use? All right. Anyway, you guys take care, all right? It was a great conversation.
Well, thank you for arranging,
thanks, Adam. Yeah, definitely.
Bye, guys.
Thank you, Adam.
Bye, Jock. Bye, Bina. Bye, John Boy. Bye, Murray.
Bye.
And apologies again, guys. I don't normally go so off-piste.
It's great. It was very interesting, actually.
Cool. All right, guys.
Awesome.
Bye.
Yeah, have a good night.
You too.
Bye, thanks.
Okay.